Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Electric Cafe. Today I wanted to talk about Kraftwerk and my experience with them, my collection with them, their impact on music, and just have a general discussion about Kraftwerk. As you can see, my channel, my logo is after patented after the legendary Electric Cafe record. Kraftwerk is super important to dance music. They're the first ones really to put. I mean, it's interesting discussion. I've heard different sides, but they were the first ones to really put and I wouldn't say a monotone, a metronome, beat to something, but they seemed to do it at the right time. And there was other people that had, did stuff to tempo and did sounds to tempo, but not maybe as cohesive in a pop aspect like Kraftwerk did, which is, makes sense with the techno pop song they did in general, and the futuristic aspect of all their songs and technology and the aesthetics of the robot and just the man and machine and music and the way we use technology every day and things like that. Like Kraftwerk represented so much, and I guess you could tie that to like dance music too, as far as like a robot or dance music, and that kind of all comes from Kraftwerk. Of course, they started out as more of a krautrock band in the late 60s, I think 69 or so like that. It came out with Autobahn around 70, I think it was 72 or 73. This is the reissue. I saw them in concert twice. In 2005 at the 930 show, 930 Club in Washington, D.C., and then I saw them in there. Here's the 3D glasses and my ticket and the actual ticket. This was I think the 3D glasses came in here. And I saw them at the Strathmore in Maryland. The 3D concert was a great show. Again, this is the Autobahn reissue, I believe, from 2016 or so. A very important track. There's been a lot of people who have remixed this in different ways, and in some respect, this really started minimal abstract dance music as well, in a way. And but back in those days, it was pop music. It was electronic pop music, but a lot of their music is really pop. It's kind of the late 70s kind of came on. They sort of, were featured more in the clubs, and as disco music had extended songs and things like that, and remixes and longer songs. Of course, they extended the techno pop into more sounding like techno as we know it today. And so there you have the famous Autobahn cover, legendary cover too, very minimalistic. Great cover. Then we move on to the next one I have. So do you have Trans Europe Express? So 1977, right? This is an original copy. Excuse me. This is a repress from '81, I believe. I don't have my glasses on. Maybe 81 or 83. It says Hall of Dummies. I'm sorry, Hall of Mirrors and Showroom Dummies. Great tracks. Metal on Metal, Endless, Trans Europe Express, Europe Endless. Great stuff, right? Here's the CD. This is probably one of the earlier CD versions of it. So, very similar. It's got the logo on the top of Capitol Records there, very small. But great stuff. I mean, Trans Europe Express, influenced one of the greatest hip-hop electro tracks of all time. Really started the electro movement in hip-hop, and it's a dance classic, Planet Rock. African Bambaataa. But having said that, Kraftwerk influenced a lot of dance music with sampling. There's been so many tracks in so many different genres, from hip hop to freestyle to techno, that have used Kraftwerk originated samples. I can, especially in bass music too. In the middle to late '80s and early '90s, bass music. If you guys know Kraftwerk, I'm sorry, if you know Techmaster PB, if you know Bass 305, DJ Magic Mike, so many bass mechanic. I could go on and on. Bass Patrol, Bass Boy, so many different bass artists used Kraftwerk over their bass tracks. I mean, it was almost like its own genre. It was so popular with people using Kraftwerk. Unfortunately, Florian Schneider passed on, a couple of years ago. I believe, of course, Ralph Hooger is still with us. Carl Bartos is still with us. I believe Wolfgang Flores, although he might have passed. Forgive me if I don't know that. I thought a second member passed. Maybe I'm thinking of Tangerine Dream with Klaus Schultz and Edgar Froese, but just legends. I mean, so important to Detroit techno and the history of electronic music, and the way it was presented. I think that's really underrated. Not only with the robots, but the technology, the song titles, the futuristic aspect. Technology just goes right in line with techno. Classic album. Then you have this is the later it was a later reissue where they changed the cover into the TEE train, Trans Europe Express train. On this version, it added Abzug onto it. But classic track, Split is the reissue. I got a lot of the first reissues when they first came out in 2000. I think it was 14 or 15 or 16, somewhere around there, when they really did a great job with these reissues. I wanted to get extra copies. Here's Radioactivity. Geiger Counter. Radioactivity. Terrific track. Transistor. Radio Stars. Uranium. Of course, with all the thought of futuristic and electricity and things like that, they definitely knew the drawbacks and the dangers of radioactivity and things like that. Like this is right after. If you guys know the song Radioactivity, it mentions 3 Mile Island, and even into the new versions it mentioned Chernobyl and Fukushima and things like that, and Hiroshima, of course, in the original, Nagasaki, things like that. So 1975, they were, talk about a groundbreaking political statement, like who was doing music in regards to radioactivity and making people aware of the dangers of it, right? In their own way. Classic album. Really, every Kraftwerk album is a classic. Man Machine. A lot of people consider this their best. Probably has the most songs, along with Computer World, that are still used and they still use in their sets and are considered classics. You got the Robots, Man Machine, Space Lab, The Model, Neon Lights, and then also Metropolis. 1978, Man Machine. It's a great album. Again, it's considered their one of their probably top 2 records. And there's them debuting the Robots in red, like they're known for. Great imagery, great graphics. This has a really cool 70s look, doesn't it? Very cool. Almost looks like it could be easily like a sign on a neon sign. Really cool. And then you have here's an original copy of Computer World. Great album, probably my favorite. This has the most hits for me. Computer World, Home Computer, Computer Love, Numbers, More Fun to Compute, Pocket Calculator. Every track a winner. Every track 4 out of 5 stars, if not 5 stars for what it represented in music history. I mean, how many dance floors has this rocked in the last 44 years now? These tracks are just, legendary. Legendary tracks sampled. And then you got the later reissue here. It looks a little bit more yellow than the original. Maybe it could be the tone. This one looks a little bit more neon green, a little bit than yellow. This one looks more yellow. And then really the only difference is they put the tracks at the top on the back. But for the most part, faithful reissues. Then we have one of their singles. This one's, I wouldn't say this is rare, but this is a very desirable copy. It's More Fun to Compute. This remix from 1981 on the B side, and then the A side, the Home Computer. I can't remember which remix this is on the side, but it's a little bit different than the album version. But it's almost like I don't think this is a promo, but this does say Clang DJ, so this could be a DJ promo of it. And then 1983, one-off single in the name of one of the most famous bike race, but one of the most famous sporting events the world's known in the last, almost 100 years. I'm not exactly how long the Tour de France has been going, but I know at least the 30s and 40s. But classic track. This crossed over to hip hop. This crossed over to freestyle music, Italo house kind of sounding, right? Post disco. This track has everything. One of the best melodies they ever did. I can think of maybe Computer Love. This one, and then maybe Trans Europe Express, and then Computer Love or Computer World. Those are some of the best melodies they've ever done. It's instantly recognizable. This has the remix and the French version, and that's what's cool about this one is the long. Not only are they both longer tracks, but 6 minutes and 45 seconds, 6 minutes and 47 seconds, but the French version, blows people away when you play the French version. A lot of people haven't heard the French version. Very cool. Very cool, very cool. And that takes you to 1986. So here's the techno pop. 1986 is the reissue right here, and I have an original copy here as well. And I really think this is an underrated record. I'm not sure why people give it slack, but this is so underrated. Telephone Call and Sex Object. They're kind of the original ones. I can see how other people think they're just like techno pop, even though I really like it. Is kind of it's really kind of an extension of Computer World in a way. Boom boom, boom boom chock. Kind of extension again. The originality might not fully be there that some of these other ones did beginning, but by 1986, what's so futuristic about Telephone Call, right? But Sex Object. But they're both great tracks. Electric Cafe, as maybe you know, the guy from Saturday Night Live, Sprockets. It's time for to dance. What's his name from Saturday Night Live? Michael Myers. So Electric Cafe is the track they used in the background for that SNL skit, which was hilarious at the time. And if you knew, you knew. My experience at Kraftwerk probably started a little bit before SNL, having heard Tour de France, and of course Trans-Europe Express, probably in the middle '80s, somewhere in the '84. I think I really, because this came out when I was 10 years old, so I kind of missed that a little bit. But I got into I got into Kraftwerk in '91 with the mix. The remixes when that one came out, I remember getting that, and really kind of diving in deep. And to understand electronic music, I mean, you have to have a foundation in Kraftwerk. It's like a prerequisite. It's like Genesis. If you're reading the Bible, it's just like, it's just music nonstop. That's one of my favorite tracks on here too. But Telephone Call and Sex Object, so underrated, so underrated. And I love the artwork, and that's why I used it for my channel here. Because that's Kraftwerk, and it kind of, in a lot of ways, it starts with Kraftwerk. So that's kind of the idea. And here's the single for Telephone Call. I think the remix is like eight minutes or something like that. And then there's also a German version on here. But super cool. Drop this in a set. Man. Wicked version. If you like the original, this is like times 10. And this is right around when the mix came out, 1991. They re-released Robots as a single with some remixes. Robotronic, the single edit, and then also the LP version, 1991. Of course, by this time, Bartos' along with Electric Cafe, Carl Bartos joined Kraftwerk for those albums. And then you have the Expo Remix. This is the double record also. There's always been the German to Detroit connection, right? Juan Atkins and Wolfgang Voigt and Mark Ernest and Basic Channel and Carl Craig, and there's always been a love affair between Detroit and Germany, and that's really because they're both influenced by technology. Their music is influenced by technology, and that's the essence of techno, right? So a lot of good remixes on this track. This is a very underrated track in the pantheon of Kraftwerk tracks. A lot of good remixes here too. Everybody from Orbital to Francis Kevorkian remixed this. Underground Resistance mix. DJ Rolando mixed this. And then of course a few Kraftwerk mixes as well from Kling Klang. I mean, just, geez, 10 versions on the CD, and then a double record. You get some of them by themselves, which is great. But great double pack. Very cool. And then, as you guys may know, Kraftwerk didn't release a lot. They've only had 2 albums in the last 30 years. Not sure why that is, but they still tour and tour. One of the ones was which was strangely named the Tour de France soundtrack. So this came out right before I saw them in '05. I think this came out in '03. Very underrated record as well. This they took the Tour de France and made a couple versions of that. So Etepe 1 and 2 and 3, and then some original tracks that they included in that tour. And there's some really good tracks on there. 2 of the favorite, Electrocardiogram has a great bass line, and Aerodynamic is a really catchy track as well. I also remember Chrono and Vitamin from the tour as well. I don't remember the other ones offhand too much. Titanium, Laform, and Regeneration. Or the Prologue, don't remember those too much offhand. I don't listen to this one a lot, to be honest with you, but it's probably because I can show you I got the CD that I listened to. The CD version that has most of this on it for the tour. So, and that's a minimum, maximum, the double CD. So the double CD had Chrono, it had Vitamin from that album. Of course, it had Aerodynamic and then also Tour de France, the Tepe version. So it really had the tracks that I can remember from hearing this so many times, but I haven't played that record that much to know the other versions. Um, Planet of Visions. I'm not sure when Planet of Visions came out, but that's such a great track. I think I'm not sure. It must have been a single at some point, but because I don't think it's on any albums. If you guys know, or I'll look up after the video. Planet of Visions. Where does that come from? Anyways, great live DVD. Sounds terrific. And then also here's the EP for Aerodynamic. Came out in '83. Got a couple remixes on here, including the Francis Kevorkian Aero mix. Very cool. All right. And then one of the last ones I'll show today is, and then I have the box set for Minimum Maximum. It includes 4 records, and I believe I think the DVD might be in here as well. But it's got Man Machine on here, Planet of Visions, basically the exact same here. It's on the Minimum Maximum. Yeah, 2005 this came out, but the pressing of this is fantastic. I remember I don't play a lot of these records on here because the box set, I got the CD, and so I don't play the box set, but I remember playing Electrocardiogram, which is my favorite off the newer album, and it's just recorded fantastic onto that. Again, I got to see them twice, the 2016 at 3D show and then 2005. But Kraftwerk, just an amazing group. I know probably everybody who's watching this video knows every Kraftwerk album, but if you don't know Kraftwerk, it's a hard place to start, but I don't think there's any wrong place to start. Maybe just the mixes, the mix 1991, those mixes probably aren't the best place to start, but I think any album that you start with is a good place. Because none of them to me are bad. They all have a good mix of dance music, a good mix of futuristic music, catchy music. Trans Europe Express might be the most experimental in a way. Autobahn might be the most challenging if you're not into like minimalism. It's kind of slower. It's not techno in a way. But maybe for that time it was techno. It's hard to say those times like what's techno and what's not in the early '70s, if there was even techno, because it wasn't necessarily labeled techno until they came out with that term in roughly like '81. So thanks for checking out the show today, talking about Kraftwerk. I'd be curious to know, what are your top 5 Kraftwerk songs? And what's your favorite album? That's a tough one. Narrow it down to one album. Not a top 3. One album. For me, I would have to pick Computer World for my favorite. Again, thanks for checking me out at Electric Cafe. Have a good day.